right. Welcome to the show. It's now 7:22 here in the UK, to be 6:22 in Ghana. Welcome to the show. Another beautiful day. Today is Friday, isn't it? So that's what I say. Thank God it's a Friday. It's Friday the 4th. Someone has got in here quickly, so I am going to converse with somebody before we start with the Zoom. So please hold on. Let me see to connect your system to the microphone. Then we can start the ball rolling. We can start with the show. As they say, let the show go on. So, okay. Sorry. All right. Well, I don't know why you call and you have. Okay. The person has dropped it. So let's carry on. And it is that tonight we are going to discuss so many things happening in West Africa. If you recall, of late, lately, let's say in a few years past, you see there have been lots of taking over of government by military administration or by the military establishments in certain countries in West Africa. Obviously, a lot have been said about this development. Whatever you think about coup d'etats, whether they are relevant, whether they solve problems, or they are absolutely useless and shouldn't happen, well, it is happening. So what I will say is anyone who wants to join to discuss the issues in West Africa, as we speak, specifically in Niger, you can join the Zoom. I think I've sent the Zoom links out. You can join the Zoom and we will all discuss it together. Of course, tonight, today is, they say Founders Day in Ghana. Founders. I thought it should be one founder. I thought it's one founder, but obviously, those in history who in diverse ways contributed somehow to get the independence for Ghana, everyone has to be acknowledged, which is fair. But what isn't fair is the attempts by certain groups, certain individuals, certain aggrieved, parties who feel that their forefathers and the rest perhaps need more recognition than they have now. Obviously, we can say, okay, thank you. They will say we don't agree. Some first will say we don't agree to that notion that it should be that we know the whole country, Ghana, there was, attempts by so many people, some chiefs, some educated, non-educated people, they wrestled power or they struggled with the colonial administration. They wanted some form of self-governance or self-reliance. I beg your pardon. And so we can say it started long before maybe Nkrumah was even born. But if you look at, the history, how things transpired, in fact, I think it's safe to say that Osagyefo and his ideas, for instance, if Osagyefo did not say, okay, we need independence or self-rule now, and he also, behaved or believed in the what do we call it? The idea that we should just, work side by side with the white people until they themselves are tired and leave. You see, Osagyefo made sure that the process of attaining independence actually moved on swiftly. So today being a Founders Day, for me, I know where to put my cards. I know where I lay all my allegiances. I am biased in that respect, and that I would say that the only one founder is Osajifu. The rest were supporting cast. If you say supporting cast, and those of you who know how to make a films, for instance, if you're a film director, you need the main people, yeah, the main people, the main blue man or the main character, huh? Okay, then the supporting cast are the people who, the drummers, the dancers, the what do we call it, the props, the part of the acting itself, So in the end, if you watch any film, you see that the main character, let's say, is either Bruce Lee or Van Damme or Arnold Schwarzenegger and the rest. We have a lot of people in the film, yeah? They are all acknowledged, but the film is all about the main character. So Nkrumah started the whole thing and ended the whole thing. Those who helped in good faith must be acknowledged. Well, some people did help, but not in good faith as such, and those people too should be remembered. For instance, those who were against Nkrumah's point of getting the independence straight away. Those who resisted that Ghana didn't have to, become a republic, and that we have to be gradually, so small, still, keep our subserviency, to the white rule. You see, so all those people are there. But you see, now, at the moment, we have a regime in Ghana, Akufo-Addo and his Achim clan, who are trying their best to, sometimes they try to subdue or to dilute the high potent, what do we call it, attributes that Nkrumah was the number one and the number one only. They want to dilute that notion. They want to, level up the narrative to sound or to look like, everybody's, contribution was at par with everyone. That means everyone, all of them were equal. It's not so at all. And this and then Founders Day. Well, friend, come and say, me mama fa. So what you are to so? I've got a bout of flu. Just that I'm alone here, so no problem with anybody. So if who say I'm coughing or sniffing, sneezing, then you should know that obviously it's not about. Okay, thank you. It's not about the fact that I'm doing it on purpose, but I am not doing it on purpose. I am actually struggling to breathe freely as it is. Comrade, did you call earlier on?
Have you started the program?
Oh, yes. I thought someone called, but I thought it was you, but on a different phone. Anyway, if you are not ready, well, the program is going on. At 8 o'clock, it will be the Zoom time with the guest. But for Founders Day, we can start talking from now. So that's why I thought, yeah.
At the barbering shop, I just called my barber.
No problem at all. No problem. When you finish, yes. Yeah. Right. So I was someone who I thought called, and he said he didn't call. So who is the fellow who called? And let's see if I can find him. If I can find the caller to ask what he wants. You are listening to MANSA MUSA. Me say, I'm sneezing and coughing and everything. It's flu, but it's not comfortable, It's not clever at all. Hopefully, it will finish tonight because I'm doing all the medicines, including the traditional ones like ginger and wintia and the rest and the rest and the rest. So, stay assured that as they say, the show will go on. Time is 9, is it 17, 19, 18, 19, okay. So it's 7:32 here in the UK, 6:32 in Ghana. You are listening to MUSA. The program is Fire Will Burn You. Let's go for a short music.
Sydney Discotheque, verano del 79, con la mejor música del mundo.
Okay, what? Ojaye!
Right, Osibisa, Osi Anuma Koliwa. I really don't understand that one, but it's still a tough music. You're listening to MUSA. The telephone number, those of you, every time you ask me, so which number should I call? You can either call 0208-123-5911 or 07876-251-261, and I will let you in. Let's go and play some, what do we call it? Some sound bites, some audio clips. Listen to what others are saying.
Cecilia Abnadapa, well done. Well done. I thought you were a woman and a mother who had compassion. They said, give a position to a woman and she'll do far better than a man. But these days, what do we see? It's sad. It's disheartening. Year in, year out, flood affects people in Accra. The Odo River gets flooded. Lives are destroyed. Properties are destroyed. You said you used $43 million to clean the Odo River. Have you seen what $43 million could do in Dubai, or in Europe, or in America? Shame unto you. It's so sad. It's so disheartening. We live in this country, people cannot even afford 1 meal a day. And some people out there who have very little are trying everything possible to reach out to those who don't have any. But you, the politicians, all you think about is grabbing. You have only one child, I was told. You have only one child and you are grabbing all these properties for only one child. How about those kids in our front plains, those kids at the north, those kids in the Volta region somewhere, those kids in remote villages in Ashanti region, in Central region, in every part of Ghana? Look, there was a kid I met in Sogakope. They are so poor that there are 3 siblings. Every morning, their meal is yesterday banku with raw pepper, no tomatoes, just pepper and salt, with no fish. The day I asked my mother to give them soup, it was like, you are bringing kids from the war zone who haven't eaten for a year. When they saw soup in a plate that day, oh, politicians are wicked in this country. You people cannot even afford to go to hospitals. I have a little charity. My colleagues from work and my friends, they help me with their little income, and we reach out to people in the remote parts of the Volta region. They have nothing, absolutely nothing to eat. You guys are just there amassing Ghana's wealth, misusing donors' funds. Aren't you ashamed of yourself? And today's Sunday, July 23rd, 2023, I believe most of you are in your churches praising God, thanking God for bringing Ghana down. Aren't you ashamed of yourself? It's so disheartening what you people are doing to Ghana. It's so sickening what you people are doing to Ghana. I go to the villages and I see kids who do not have anything to do, who do not have anything to eat. There are people who are sick. They can't go to hospitals. Even they go to the hospitals, they give them paracetamol. This national health insurance, you buy a loaf of bread in Kuala, you pay national health insurance. Yet, donors are putting money into this national health insurance, but you guys are just looting the money, and people go to hospitals, you give them paracetamol. Why are you doing this to Ghana? Why? Why are you doing this to Ghana? Oh, don't you have heart? Don't you have compassion? Don't you have sympathy? Don't you have feelings for people? It is sad. And you guys should be ashamed of yourselves. You guys should be ashamed of yourselves.
Well, according to this narrator, he said, we all should be ashamed. I don't know if it is all of us, but Ghanaians should be ashamed of themselves. All the politicians who are siphoning money as we speak. We have our Bank of Ghana, the sovereign bank. It operates, or is supposed to operate under some strict laws and regulations. The National Sovereign Bank of Ghana cannot decide on its own, on its own volition to do whatever they like. For instance, if the bank or the government, the executive arm of government comes to say to the bank manager or the director or governor that, look, we need some monies to buy certain things. The revenues we are collecting is not ready yet. So can you find us some money from somewhere amounting to a certain figure? Let's say 10,000, is it? I don't know, 10, let's say 10 million. I don't know how much it is. But let's say 10 billion, right? Then the bank manager or the governor should tell the executive that, look, I cannot lend you more than 5 billion because according to the law, if you want more, then it will have to pass through parliament. So this one, for the interest, is in all of us, our interest, that the executive can have money to operate. So I think you have to send your request through the parliament. So parliament will meet, usually it's a partisan sort of something. I mean, Ghana parliament is now 10, it's almost, it's like a walk in the park. The parliament has tended to be rubber stamping. No matter what people will shout and do and say, in the end, parliamentarians will pass what the executive brought anyway. So one would have expected the Akufo-Addo government, if they needed much more money, and maybe the loans are not coming or the revenue is not enough, it should have gone through the proper procedure, gone to the parliament to ask that, look, we need monies to do this, to do that, or maybe to pay off some debt, which is accumulating. It's not... Okay, all right, thank you. So we will need to purchase, we need to buy medicines, anything. So we need more money than what the law allows us or allows the bank to provide. So kindly, please, Parliament, go to sit on this matter and hopefully bring back, a positive response. That is what the government should have done, the executive. But on the Akufo-Addo, it's all about Akufo-Addo, Gabio Chiredako, sometimes with Baumia, then Bedi Etuo, the family group will decide that, look, we need the money at all costs. They will tell Ken Ofori-Atta to look for the money. So in the end, you see, everything is illegality in Ghana now. In the end, they've got a governor who, is not actually performing by the what do we call it? The lay down procedures. Professionally, the governor should be able to tell the government or the executive that no, I can't do this. If it's not coming through from parliament, then please, I cannot. Otherwise, you have to sack me or something. But no, Akufo-Addo and Ken Ofori-Atta went to see the Bank of Ghana governor. They call him the Addison. Oh, printers some 50 billion or 30 billion. Oh, no problem, they print. Some 10 billion, no, they print. Before they have printed plenty billions. Plenty. That is actually against the law in Ghana for the bank doing that. In any other proper place, by now the bank director or governor would have been sacked. It's a grievous offense. But then, let's put that aside. If the executive have gone to ask for money, they've been given the money anyway, billions of cedis. The question is, how was it spent or what did they use that money to do? What was the extra money printed by Bank of Ghana? What was it for? What was that money for? The extra money, the printed money, what was it for? You see, if, like I said, already it is against the law, it's unlawful, it's criminal for Bank of Ghana apparently to borrow or lend the executive more than, 5% of their previous what do you call it? Is it GDP? Previous revenue, something. I forgot it. But there is a standard to follow. That a certain amount can be printed or can be given as a loan. Let alone print more cash. But all these rules, all these laws. In fact, I've got the constitution here, and all these things are written in the back. Look, I'm telling you, I'm not very, very smooth today. I'm suffering from flu. So, I to say many hakakra. But the point is, Embrana war constitution no, the Bank of Ghana, aided by the executive, that is the Kufuor people, almost break his constitutional rules, no. You see, but me, MANSA MUSA, look, we don't live in a utopian sort of environment. You cannot say that, once say print this current, you should never print. All right. Now, it was against the law for the bank to print. But my question, or the question all Ghanaians are asking, what were those monies used for? Sika bebre na abainoma Bank of Ghana printing, Omodi ye day. Ekufuor ni kenufrata ni ba umiane bounty ni friend saying Gabio Chidako so you can buy no so you be any so can no scan omodi ye day because look a band say em fan say tokwa bi esi na ehia etuo akesia big ones for the military to go and fight on our behalf and ye ni ska ye ntumi ko follow okay enti no yakofa ekire ne ya print sika no and ye sika no akoto dollar and ye dollar na akoto bia a moment and say arms ama soldiers and say the sika no we use it to pay either domestic or foreign debt. So sika no a printing and that printing of that money na say illegal but omo printing we what they use it for is what we are now asking. So if they didn't use it to buy medicines, if they didn't use it to purchase, a spare parts for the sky train, if they didn't use it, they didn't use the printed money to, let's say, buy serious agricultural machinery for the agri sector, for the Ghana Air Force, anything. Where is the money? What was it used for? So for me, I've always maintained, people who sit and say, a West form of democracy is better than military rule or military coup. I tend not to, honestly speaking, I tend not to agree at all. I don't agree for people saying that the West democracy is better than military rule. Because my question is, you explain to me what is the West democracy? What is the West form? Define the West form of democracy. If the West form of democracy is that the people in government, people in power will not do what the citizens want. The citizens struggle while they, the people at the top, make big amounts of monies. People suffering while the elites, the political elites keep on making, okay, thank you, keep on making, if, let me say this, if the politicians in a West form of democracy, as people say, that is better than military rule. So if the West is that, the civilian democratic governors are actually fattening up. They are siphoning monies up and down. The people, the citizens know that their monies are being wasted. Then when it comes to election, the same group will make sure they do everything to maintain power. So let's say if that is the worst form of democracy, how can you say that is better than military rule? How? Because if you say that democracy is just because at every given time, every given period, you can walk and go and vote. I mean, I don't get it. I don't get it at all. So for those of you saying that democracy is better, the worst form of democracy is better than military, I don't get it. Because the military, rule or dictatorship is something that the responsibility, the onus, the whole everything is on one particular person. And that person must answer. They know that anything goes wrong, they are in trouble. Also, what happens is, usually when there is a military and what do you call dictatorship and the rest, they tend not to be, they tend not to be tribal, the tribal. They don't rule according to their clan or those sort of things. And also, what I've seen that most military dictatorship, they try, at least from initial stages, to do away, to try to, resist the colonial mentality, the oppressor's rule. Even though most of the times they don't seem to, to advance or to win in that direction, in that respect. You see, so if you are among those who think that civilian worst form of democracy is better than a military rule, you can call me and we talk. You can call me and we talk. Go for commercial break.
Busiafo sese die ye nam top connect so e mani sika de bagana e free wiase afana nyina ye nchia kapre ane aye free top connect amasika mani aye mrekra ye wohia ne se wo be download wo top connect app no e wo Play Store de ama wo Android phone ana se wo use iPhone so a ko Apple Store na download the top connect aye simple kra top connect wa man be aduonum so wo Europe, North America and Asia wo mane wo dofo sika fa top connect so a aye tem na emre na mawa hoto swonso sese die sika manye di foforo kra any top connect so we yan chechemu bia free top connect e wo +442 081 6155 and a +442 081 761 600 +447 882 950 088 and nasa hwehwe top connect e wa befo ntintafidie nyina so top connect fasika mane wa dofo asumjemu a untia kapre top connect yensu ye dienie.
Right, that is top connect. If you are talking about remittance, there is only one top connect for you. For remittance, if you want to send money home, there's no other place, there's no other group other than top connect. And what do you see? Ghana. Fa top connect for so. Na omo nhwe na omo enye ho adwuma ma wo. If you say sika no ni pay di na what dey send ya Ghana, the simplest form no their hustle be any ho a ye tuawe anase ye say no and answer questions no and mutikakra. So I will recommend Top Connect money senders, or say send money everywhere. That is their mantra. So send money everywhere. And I'm media at to say with peace of mind. Ubenya smudri kra ubenya smudri. We team MUSA fire ubenu. Tonight we are dedicating or concentrating on issues pertaining in West Africa. I mean, with regards to the military coups, democracy, whether it's working, and also, if civilian democracy isn't working, what are the choices for, for citizens? What are the choices? Because if, people are given the free chance to actually vote to either remove a sitting government or to approve of the sitting government to stay on genuinely, then there's no problem. But here we have in the case, it's happening everywhere on that West Africa there. It's happening everywhere. Recently, look at Nigeria. I think as we speak, the case is still even in court. You see, the party of the former president, they have made sure that their party stay in power. So if there was, serious sort of illegalities or suspected crimes or corruption, likely there won't be any retribution. There won't be any sort of a proper investigation to bring out the facts or the truth. Everything will be covered. I mean, that one with me, you are cheating democracy. The democracy is that majority of the people may not like you, but you force yourself into office, to stay. Just like in 2020. In fact, majority of Ghanaians didn't like Akufo-Addo, but he's still in power. So if you say the worst form of democracy is better than soldier ruler, if the people cannot change a bad government, which is a civilian one, then how do you explain that the worst form? Because after all, if the soldiers are mismanaging or misbehaving, it is the same. If the civilian are misbehaving or mismanaging, it's the same. Especially when you know you cannot vote them out. Even though theoretically they say, after every 4 years you can vote them out. Or every 5 years, I don't know. Countries, even Ivory Coast, the president apparently he has maneuvered to change the constitution so that he will stay on again. All these things bring sentiments. The oppositions get angry. They start to raise the concern of especially their supporters, bring them out to complain, to demonstrate, present chaos everywhere. The government people will say, the opposition is trying to entice the people against government, threatening the peace of the republic or the country, a whole lot of. Then you see skirmishes here and there, killing and everything. That's why I wrote a little piece that, look, for me, I feel there are some crooks, and I'm not going to use any software, crooks, masquerading as political elites in West Africa who are killing. Those people are killing democracy. These people are crooks, and they want to show themselves as though they are Democrats. All what they want is that they want the power. Now, what angers me a lot is that if you have the power and you do what is right by the people, fine, let's get it on. Look, I will tell you something. I remember 97 when Tony Blair came to power. Look, even some of the conservative politicians were saying, look, after Margaret Thatcher and everything got to a time, you see that we were tired. The conservatives, they say, the government, the Conservative Party running the show, they were tired. People have started talking about the conservative in power now, that, they look rugged, they look tired, maybe a change of, you see, but in Africa, in West Africa, someone will stay on for 10 years. After that, the same democracy, you say, let's try and change the constitution. They will do some killings, will happen here and there. People cannot do anything. They cannot resist. Then constitution will be changed. That person will stay in power again for another maybe 5 years. We are thinking about where. I've forgotten which place. Is it Chad or somewhere? I don't know, Chad or Gabon. I've forgotten. In West Africa recently. The president is trying to change I think they are voting to change the constitution so that the government can stay on for another 16 years. You see, and that is a civilian government. So if you say the worst form of democracy is far better than a military one, what exactly do you mean? What exactly do you mean? Bring your thoughts and let's talk about it. On Fire will burn you.
NFM Radio.
Sydney Discotheque, verano del 79, con la mejor música del mundo.
Okay, what? Ojaye!
Welcome back if you just tune in. MUSA, I'm here, still waiting for my guest to appear so we can have discussions. But on the local level, do you know that they say Ghana rank first with highest food prices for sub-Saharan Africa? That means from the Sahara desert all the way down to Southern Africa, Ghana ranks first in high food prices. You see, this is after Kufuor's government had this massive slogan of planting for food and jobs. So the slogan didn't just come out of the blue. Lots of monies, big sums of monies have been, have been spent to organize this program. The gentleman who, was the head of the program, Afriye Akoto, his name, today he says he wants to be president. He's going around, he wants his party to nominate him. And I haven't asked anybody actually asking him to qualify his credential or his outcomes as a minister of agric. As the minister of agriculture, which spent lots of monies to organize such a program or policy of planting for food and jobs. You see the slogan, the mantra, it sounds really good, isn't it? You plant for food and jobs. Because planting, people are going to do the planting either with machinery or not. They are going to do the planting, so they will have a job to do. Then when the food and everything comes, people will have food. And, such programs are, they are done or they are made to bring, the idea, the objective is to be self-sufficient in food, in agriculture, what you call materials and everything. That is why a government will waste or spend money on a certain program. In this case, it said planting for food and jobs. So if you read here, they say Ghana ranks first with the highest food prices in sub-Sahara. You see? And nobody is asking the former agric minister, why has he spent so much money? In fact, if you look in the budget and the Auditor General's report and the rest, the monies are there. I cannot quote you how much, but they are huge. And yet, we don't have food, in abundance in Ghana. You see, this, they will blame COVID and Ukraine war. The same phenomena, the same COVID or the same, let's say, war that is affecting everybody, how is it affecting Ghana so acutely, so harsh, so hard? And maybe it's not affecting others the same way. Because if you bring out a program of planting for food and jobs and spend so much money for nearly over 6 years, and we don't have the food and we don't have the jobs, such a person, any proper country where human beings reside, if we really have a proper country, this guy would have retired, maybe gone into obscurity, he was gone hiding. He wouldn't rather come out to say, I want to be the president. You see how insulting the whole thing is. And you can take any of the sectors. You see, I don't blame even here the agric minister who has failed miserably, wants to be a president because he knows the vice president who has also failed miserably also say he wants to be president. And I don't blame all of them because Akufo-Addo's caliber, people who know him close quarters, they know he's not up there, he's not at the top. No. He hasn't got the big brains at all. So others feel that, if Akufo-Addo can run this country for 8 years, why shouldn't I try my luck? This is what is happening. This is what is actually happening. So for me, I read with a sense of resignation. I mean, I feel sad. I feel sad to say that Ghana is ranked first with the highest food price for Sub-Sahara Africa. No, we Ghanaians, we rank first. Highest food prices. You see, when these things are being said or we complain and we talk about these things, people think we are being harsh on the government. But you shouldn't forget that it is one group of people, one government, one party, which will rule the country at a time, at a particular time. And at this present moment, it is Akufo-Addo's MPP. Those of you who go about, giving, reasons and being apologetic, for the government, saying that, anytime you mention something like food prices, but this thing has been happening since Adam. You have petrol prices, but previously the same. Energy prices, the same. They will say, it has been happening. If you come to, let's say, welfare or let's say food or education, they will refer you that, previously it was like that. So I'm thinking, if previously it has been like that and you are voted into office to come and change, to come and, replace the horrible, the bad, the ugly, the mediocre with, with something new, something bright, something satisfying, something excellent. That is why people are voted to come and replace the bad people. So when you come and things are going, rather getting worse, and you just sit down and pray. Of course, in Ghana, literally, we pray for everything. The parliament will start with a prayer. They themselves pray, they know it won't go anywhere. It doesn't, because God will not listen to liars, traitors. God will not listen to, dishonest people. Most of them in the parliament are dishonest. They don't speak truth to themselves. They don't speak truth to power. They don't speak truth to the citizens who voted them to go and, occupy such positions. Yeah, hypocrites. And so God doesn't listen to them. I know it. I am very sure, okay, thank you. I am very sure that when the parliament starts in Ghana and they start with a prayer, I know that God is not listening. Let me go for a break. I'll be back. I need to respond to certain...
Discoteque, verano del 79, con la mejor música del mundo.
Okay, one. Ojaye!
Okay. Right. So if you have just tuned in here, you are welcome. MUSA, I am discussing all those issues in West Africa that is really bothering everybody now. It's bothering almost everybody, each and every one of us. Tonight, okay, thank you. Tonight with us, my guest, Dr. Kwasi Enin. He's a lecturer at the Kofi Annan Institute in Accra. and he's a security expert as well. And for me, I got to know him through other media channels like Al Jazeera and CCN TV, whatever. And I saw a Ghanaian explaining, with explaining matters to world audience about security issues in Africa, West Africa. And it got to me, and so this makes me proud. It's not every time you hear something nice coming from Africa or West Africa. So, these guys, who always come to, brighten our, image, is always very good. And tonight, I'm able to have, he has accepted our invite, and he's here to discuss issues in West Africa specifically. But in general, we can talk about what is happening in the whole of Africa in terms of security or lack of it as well. Dr. Kwasi, good evening. Welcome to the show.
Yes, good evening.
Your face is beautiful, more beautiful than mine. I mean, if you
now you are being very naughty.
if you bring your face, it will be nice. Everybody will see you, and it will be nice on the Facebook. It will be on the WhatsApp and what do you call YouTube and everything, and it's nice, so that I won't be the only one. The rest of society, anyone who wants to join too, you can switch on your video, but switch off your microphone. Right, doctor, let's go straight to the point. And that is, if you still can hear me, can't you?
Oh, yes, I can hear you loud and clear.
Brilliant. West Africa, for the past few years, some of us thought, in the maybe late 60s, 70s, 80s, the coup d'etats here and there, military governance here and there, all those sort of things. We thought that, we've seen the end of military dictatorship or junta or junta, whatever you call it. We've seen the end of one-man rule and a new dawn of democracy, headed by civilians in suit, in tie, in beautiful dresses, and ladies' skirt and everything, with sharp brains. We thought that is the way to go. But recently, across the West African continent, West African region, a lot has happened. Coups has, come in to remove, should I say, legitimate civilian governments here and there. This phenomena, why do you think this, in general, before we go to specifics, why do you think this has happened, Dr. Enin?
Well, let me just make a little bit of a clarification. I'm the Director of Research at the Kofi Annan International Peacekeeping Training Center in Accra.
Thank you.
So your question, why the resurgence in coup d'etats? Mansa, if you remember, coup d'etats were very fashionable in the late 60s, throughout the 70s, and then throughout the 80s, until the early 1990s, for Ghana 1992, when particularly domestic and internal demands, demonstrations led to redemocratization. But any form of government or rule, even military dictatorships, are predicated on delivering public service goods,
Sure.
Health, education, jobs, security, basically improving the lives of people. Now, when you have military dictatorships, there's a tendency, of course, to want to promise all these things, particularly when they take over a governance from a civilian regime. But you remember, I don't know when you left Ghana, but for those of us who were in Ghana around 1982 until 1992, those difficult periods where issues of security, economic development, rule of law, human rights were placed as a very tiny place. So the public demand for a more inclusive form of government led to the desire across the sub-region around 1992 to bring about democracy. Now, democracy presupposes, Mansa, that you and I can have this conversation, be as critical as possible, without necessarily being abusive and threatening to undermine the system of governance. But we have seen multiple developments. One, that MANSA gets onto the platform, promises things that he knows he cannot deliver, even within 20 years, were he to be voted for, only to be voted for and to say, I've been in opposition for a long time and I didn't know how bad things were. And therefore, instead of 10 years, I think I will need to stay for 20 years. Because the democratic process is one of engagement, as we are doing. It's predicated on institutions, hopefully and preferably strong institutions, that plays an oversight role in ensuring that things are done properly. Those institutions since 1992 across the continent have been undermined and hollowed out. So we see corruption being one of the major challenges that most African countries are facing. Although we have institutions that should play the oversight role and bring under control those who are flouting the rules, it's become just window dressing. It is not done. Human rights abuses are going on, constitutions are being changed. We saw it in Guinea. We've seen the manipulated processes in La Côte d'Ivoire. We are seeing riots in Senegal. Mansa, my argument is simple. Soldiers only take up arms to overthrow a civilian government when the foundations for coup d'etats have been laid by the democratically elected government. That justify coup d'etats? Probably not. But for populations who feel frustrated, who feel victimized, who feel dispossessed, who feel excluded, who don't seem to have an outlet about getting their views onto the table, whose economic foundations are hollowed out by corruption and useless economic policies, then the alternative becomes attractive. So, Mansa, the question is this. If we want democracy, which I think, based on the Afrobarometer study, most Africans want democracy as a form of governance, how do we then hold our democratically elected governments in check so that what they have promised to do in gaining power, we can hold them accountable? How do we hold them accountable for the excessive corruption that we see across the continent? How do we hold them accountable when they try to change, the constitutions? So both for ECOWAS and the African Union, there are protocols relating to issues of constitutional changes, free press, the rights of the opposition, and what must be done when corruption is in existence. Unfortunately, most democratic governments have failed to ensure that institutions work and that they can check some of these excesses. And therein lies the increasing entrance of the military back onto the political space, which is very unfortunate.
This should outline or explain almost everything. Let's say if we just met in the pub, who say, this one, that means the answer is already given. But let's go into it, let's explore it a bit more. You said something like, MANSA will go and stand on the stage to promise heaven and earth, knowing very well he cannot achieve it. most people, including myself, will forgive MANSA if he, MANSA MUSA, if he fails to deliver on certain promises. But a certain promise like I will lead exemplary life. I will, make sure that, corruption in my day, Kalabule and those things, it was all hidden. It was all a bit, shameful to collect bribe, to receive bribe, or to give bribe, that sort of thing. So when I promise that, okay, in my regime, in my time, I will make sure that my minister, who is Dr. Kwasi, will make sure that any money we spend, everything will be transparent. These are not difficult things to achieve, is it, Doc?
No, it shouldn't be difficult. But you realize that there are two things that matter in democracies. One is that institutions matter. That the institutions that are established to deal with corruption, to deal with the rule of law, to deal with the respect for human rights, to ensure that constitutions are not changed, that opposition parties can work freely, that the media works freely, that those institutions in quite a number of countries are hollowed out to the extent that their capacity to be a sparring partner and to ensure that governments behave appropriately in a manner that is befitting of democracies is not there. So let me give a very typical example. If we take Senegal, I think in the last week or so, the president, His Excellency Macky Sall, has imprisoned the opposition leader, Mr. Sonko, and banned the opposition party. Now, when you behave that way, and your citizens know that it is a deliberate, manipulative process because you think the opposition might possibly give you a run for your money, then you are creating the basis and the foundations for upheavals, for riots, for demonstrations, and for violence. And we have seen that in Senegal. We also saw in Guinea, prior to the coup, the behavior of Professor Condé, who had been an opposition leader for years, came into power, discovered iron ore that put billions of dollars into the state coffers. And basically, he and his ministers looted everything. So, MANSA, one aspect of the conversation relates to building strong domestic or national institutions to ensure that they serve as the building blocks and the oversight institutions for deepening democracy. The second relates to the international multilateral institutions to which all these countries are members. So we are members of ECOWAS and we are members of the African Union. I don't even want to go to the United Nations. Now, if we take ECOWAS, ECOWAS has a multiplicity of instruments, from the original treaty to the revised treaty of 1993, Article 58, that gives ECOWAS supranational authority to be able to engage member states. It has the protocol on conflict prevention, the convention on small arms and its ammunition, the supplementary protocol on democracy and good governance, the convention against corruption. The African Union also has quite a number of protocols and regulations and conventions. The sum total of these conventions and protocols is that they form a normative framework of objectives, of rules, and importantly, MANSA, of shared values.
Sure.
Now, when you voluntarily join these organizations, what it means is that the organization has the right and the authority to rein in member states who flout the rules that they have voluntarily signed on to. Unfortunately, for both ECOWAS and the African Union, the history of these organizations' performances is that they wait until the crisis has arisen and then they make the appropriate noises. Master, my suggestion, just like in a good friendship, is that instead of the automaticity in which we will wait for a crisis to come and we will crack the whip, why don't we start a graduated set of interventions? So MANSA sees that, look, nowadays Kwasi is checking this girl out and he's making eyes. So MANSA calls me and says, Charlie, the kind of agreement that we have, if you want to be a member of this men's club, is that we don't go looking and spying and chasing other people. So please try and change your behavior. So that if we have a graduated set of interventions, where these institutions that we are members of begin to tell us when we are going wrong, then I think we will prevent quite a number of the coups that are taking place.
I guess I understand you on that particular premise, that point. That is, I was going to ask you about the fact that the ECOWAS, is it that big? We are not doing those checks, preemptive checks or oversight, because the protocols, as you call them, as you explained, are not conclusive enough. They are not strong enough. They are not adequate enough. Because if one example I can give you between Poland and the European Union, when Polish, the government wanted to do certain things about their judges or something about freedom of whatever it is about LGBT things and all, the whole European Union, maybe they didn't succeed, but at least they went after them. The whole European Union went onto the Polish government like a ton of bricks, so to speak. So I agree with you. Is it that the ECOWAS structure, the protocols are not that adequate? What is it?
Master, the protocols are more than adequate. But in the Polish case that you cited about their reluctance to accept and respect LGBTQ+.
Say that again, because okay, carry on, go ahead. As we say there, you carry on. Carry on.
Before I carry on, I think I will indulge you. LGBTQ+.
All right. You got it.
Yeah. So in the EU, we have the Commission that is supranational, just like the ECOWAS Commission that is supranational. What that means is that every single agreement, convention, protocol, regulation that member states sign on to must be domesticated into their national law. So when you sign on to ECOWAS's corruption convention, what it means is that you should ensure that you deal with corruption. But this needs to take place similar to the EU case that you mentioned, that the Commission has the gumption and the backbone to start the process of saying, member states, this is what you have promised to do. Come on, let me see you do it, otherwise we will sanction you. In both ECOWAS and the EU, until a coup d'etat takes place, there's hardly any sanctions at all. So, were we to move away from the coup d'etat and to look at, let's say, paying our dues, the assessed dues, most African Union member states don't pay. Most ECOWAS member states don't pay. Question is, are there sanctions against them? And the answer is no. So for me, my real concern is how do we ensure that when member states sign on voluntarily, and here the definitive word is voluntary, that when we sign on voluntarily to these agreements, that the organizations that we are members of can also elicit compliance. So there are two crucial words here: the voluntary accession to these protocols, and then the levels of compliance that the organization expects from member states. And when these things don't work, then there must be sanctions. Then the organizations must step in. But in all cases, whether it is about dealing with climate change, desertification, transhumans, blah, 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 both organizations on a scale of 1 to 10 perform only 1.5. Basically, that they are even getting F- in their actions. But particularly in ECOWAS, change is beginning to come. For quite a number of years, ECOWAS's capacity to deliver on its mandate has been weak. In the last 6 to 9 months, there have been some institutional transformations, and although I'm a critic of ECOWAS, I've started becoming a bit optimistic because of one individual. As I started, institutions matter and individuals also matter. There is a Ghanaian who is the Commissioner for Political Affairs, Peace and Security, Dr. Abdel Fattah MUSA. Dr. MUSA, who has the same name as yours, and I think you should invite him to speak here, has the experience, the backbone, the moral authority, and the intellectual strength to speak truth to power. So MUSA has is beginning to settle in, and I want to give him some time to settle, because I think we will see a qualitative change in how the organization begins to respond and to react to member states. Yeah.
So then, having said that, in that generality of how ineffective, almost, I don't know how to gather everything to try to rearrange, but we've had a problem in Ivory Coast, if I'm not mistaken, Cote d'Ivoire, where the president, I think, has, he has succeeded in twisting the constitution in his favor. I think I'm not reading from my script. And then we recently, a place called Senegal, where relatively used to be very peaceful. It's like inviting trouble onto oneself. What is happening very soon is like fire will be set in that country as well, Senegal. All these things started, as how this man has put it, what's the name? The Liberian president, George Weah, said the institutional coups and, those sort of things. Why is the ECOWAS keeping quiet, sitting down for, clearly there is certain things not right. They keep quiet. And when I say ECOWAS, is it because the ECOWAS itself is not, how do I say it, voted into office like they do in Europe by the citizens of ECOWAS? And therefore, it's, the responsibility just falls on heads of states who are themselves taking advantage of all the loopholes, and they themselves don't want perhaps the protocols or the strict rules to affect them. So they keep quiet, follow up. Whenever anything happens, they go and congratulate. Oh, well done, you've won another election. Let's move on. But when somebody should take the gun, they say, hey, we don't want that. I don't want us to talk about the Niger issue yet. I wanted to stay in the general, what I see as a certain sort of, it's not a pandemic, but it is a phenomenon within the African setup. where we accept not only mediocrity, but we accept such, sort of governance. The start of governance, you and I, we are in Europe, or you've been in Europe, the European youth will not accept. The European youth can bring you to power. They will shout for you, they will dance for you, make music, everything. But when you are not performing, you see they hit the streets. In our case, helpless. What is happening?
So, Mans, I think you really touched on several critical issues. First, you use the phraseology for Senegal, inviting trouble. You see, you know yourself, and I do, as Ghanaians, that irrespective of our ethnic group that we come from, we have this saying that trouble doesn't like human beings. It's human beings who like trouble.
Exactly.
And in Senegal, it is very clear that Macky Sall is looking for trouble. And in his desperate quest to look for trouble, our leaders have failed woefully to bring him to check. And as you correctly say, an institutional coup is taking place very clearly in Senegal, but our multilateral organizations are quiet, including the UN. So that is a problem. So there's certainly fire in Senegal. It is not the right nor responsibility of an incumbent government to ban an opposition party and to frame an opposition leader and throw him in prison. So you talk about the youth of Africa who are comparatively patient. But see, that is a patience that is extremely dangerous. It bubbles and bubbles and festers until it explodes because there is no avenue or vent for response.
Sure.
You didn't want to use the word a pandemic or the phrase a pandemic of coups. But there's no doubt at all that after Guinea, Mali, ×2, Burkina Faso ×2, and now Niger, and an attempted coup in Cape Verde and Guinea-Bissau, and last week in Sierra Leone, that we are looking at a pandemic. That the democratic process in West Africa is under threat, that there is something that has fundamentally shifted. And from where I sit, the shift is because the rhetoric and the narrative of democracy's capacity to transform lives has not happened. That the transformation that we are seeing is for family and friends, and at best for members of the political party. That is not the essence of democracy. Democracy is about shared norms, shared principles, shared values, and more importantly, shared principles, in which we use these set of ideas as a vehicle to intervene and to bring about societal change for the benefit of the human race. On this continent, with the exception of probably Namibia, Botswana, and one or two other countries, democracy remains an abstract concept in which you drop a piece of paper somewhere and then you just go and sleep, and then people abuse you and lie to you, and then the next 4 years they come back with the same set of lies, hoping that you will change. So, MANSA, until there's a qualitative change in which democracy as a process and as a form of government transforms people's lives and gives them hope, with the teeming populations of this continent seeking to cross the Sahara, seeking to cross the Mediterranean, and being pushed back, then what we have seen in Niger, Mali, Burkina Faso, and Guinea unfortunately, will continue to go. That is not.
Carry on. Sorry, I thought you flat. Go ahead, please.
That is not what the majority of West Africans want. West Africans want systems of engagement, of inclusion, of openness, of transparency, accountability, and more importantly, of engagement. You know, as West Africans, there's nothing we like more than a conversation.
Sure.
Robust, different views, but we will finish and laugh it off. Eat some acheke, eat some banku, eat some TZ, eat some chebujen, and off we go to our different places.
Sure.
But when you close that vent, that allows for alternative opinions to come onto the table, then you push people to look for less savory means of contributing to the public debate.
Let's bring in the geopolitics or political aspect into our conversation. My question is, it looks as if the French controlled or the French-speaking West African countries are the ones that have become, how do I put it, so angered, somehow feel as though they have to re-liberate themselves. If we want to take the democracy thing aside, can anyone blame these West African French-controlled, in inverted commas, countries of trying to disentangle or to remove the shackles or to free themselves from still there's some sort of puppet strings being pulled from Paris, and they want to get clear of that. Can anyone blame them?
No, I don't think anyone can blame them in that sense. And I don't think the desire to free ourselves from the shackles of neocolonialism is different in the Francophone countries than in the Anglophone countries or the Lusophone countries. The structures of colonial control and dominance may be sort of slightly different, but the fundamentals of, number one, ensuring that the post-colony continues to become a frame for exploitation remains in place. That's the one. Number two, almost all these metropoles, the Lusophone, Anglophone, and the Francophone, and recently also the Arabophone, have created through their generation of knowledge a body of discourses that shapes the way that the elites who have taken over these countries think. So the desperation is to ensure that their masters in the metropole are very happy for the way that they treat their own citizens after they have stepped into their shoes. So for quite a number of our countries, although we are independent in name, we have a flag, a national anthem, a presidential palace, we go through elections. Truly, nothing much has changed. That the elites who have taken over power probably are more rapacious and violent against their own citizens than France, Portugal, Italy, or the UK or the Netherlands. They rather are now creating a narrative of rule of law, of respect for human rights, and covering up, one, their own history on this continent in terms of exploitation and resource extraction, and two, the way that beneath this veneer of respect for human rights and democracy, they are still pulling the strings, and manipulating our new elites or the neo-colonial elites to behave in ways that they want. So what we are seeing is really a contestation between, the elites in the metropoles, but most certainly the elites who are in the neo-colonial states. And we are seeing the masses, the citizens, increasingly beginning to say, look, but is this what our great-grandfathers fought for democracy about, or for independence? And as populations grow, and then the size of the public purse that people struggle to have access to continues to shrink, then that contestation and the drive for power and the subsequent violence that arises will become more frequent.
Right. You are listening to MUSA. I am with my guest, Dr. Kwasi Enin, and he said he is the Director of Research at the Kofi Annan Peace Institute. Now I've got it clear. We are discussing, the situation in West Africa with regards to, the recent new development or new, phenomena of military takeovers. Luckily, I can say that if there's any luck about this, in that most of the coups which has happened in recent times, relatively can be said to be bloodless. Compared to what we saw previously. From the beginning, my brother Kwasi said he doesn't, he asks, about my whereabouts during those days, but it's no more a secret. You guys listen to me all the time. You should know that I'm MANSA MUSA, I was born to face almost all the coups because 66, as a wee kid, my dad was, I'm telling you a little bit about myself. My dad was a bodyguard to Nkrumah. He was arrested, staff sergeant before they released after 3 months. He was a full corporal. We went through that in Boy in Bema camp, that sort of thing. 72, I was in Form 1, Arakan Barras. Our school, the playing field was right behind a champion's house. So I saw everything, Then 79, as a young fella in the technical school and the rest, not much involved. 82, I joined the ranks and, from Elwak Stadium straight to Afienya, then Asuchari, some Cuba, Nigeria, parachute and everything. That villa beside the castle called Sankara Villa, I, MANSA MUSA, named it. So I've been through the thick and thin of it. I usually say to people that, look, perhaps the idea was good. Maybe we got it wrong practically. But the idea that do not overly cheat or take what belongs to everybody for yourself alone, the idea that don't do that, we must embrace it. Perhaps use the modern, let's say, way of governance to do the checks and balances and not the buga way we did it. But now it has shifted too way off. That, if you agree with me, Kwasi, that the things that brought about 79, after 66, we know it was a rubbish something about Nkrumah and the CIA and all those things. So let's leave that. But 79, what brought about it? Honestly speaking, what is going on in our country, Ghana? You can't compare what it is. Like I said, crime and corruption were something that cannot be proven in those days. People knew it was happening. But now, can you imagine that, to use the local parlance, plain, we are going for elections and people are actually paying people. It's a crime to pay, to influence, use money to influence elections. But people are doing it in open spaces. What is going on, Kwasi? Let's deviate a bit. We'll come back to the coups and the rest. But I think we can join this into the anger. The reason, maybe there's not a good excuse, but that is the reason for this uprising and military coups and the rest. Take it away, Kwasi.
Well, I think it relates to our earlier conversation about the efficacy of institutions and the role that we should expect institutions to play. So if we take the ECOWAS Protocol or Convention Against Corruption, it states, amongst other things, that you cannot pay for people's votes, you cannot bribe people. Now, when states deliberately flout the rules that they have signed on to, one, it diminishes that institution to which they are a member, but it also, within the state, begins to lay the basis for misunderstanding and for violence. And I think when you win elections through falsehoods or through bribery, it takes away a bit of the credibility of the whole process. And I think it's important that credibility of institutions and of processes are maintained, particularly when they deal with elections, because we know that almost every violent incident in West Africa is one way or the other related to elections.
Good evening, MUSA. Our brother, Dr. Kwasi, good evening. I'm not sure whether you're in London or wherever you find yourself, whether in Ghana. Good evening, sir. Good evening, sir. And thank you for all the good job you're doing for your dear country, Ghana. This is Sir Gabo.
Thank you.
Could you something like Saka know this year? This is what I would say. No matter what is going on in Ghana, in spite of all the things that we all see, that we all think that is going on in Ghana, the problems,
NFM Radio.
the thing that you see, all the, I would say that people, the news that goes around, but some are true, some are not true. That's part of what we're going through. That's why the crisis. There is no way that we should allude any problem to a coup d'etat. We must stay away from there. Let me say this. Our father, J.J. Rawlings, may so rest in peace. If we were to exhume the corpse of our dear Rawlings, and bring him back to life, if we can turn ourselves in Jesus Christ and bring him back to life, he will condemn a coup d'etat. If you were to go and bring Hitler, of all people, he will condemn a coup d'etat. Why am I saying this? These two people have two things in common. Rawlings said the coup in 79, came in 81 again. Eventually, he discovered that to be a real leader in a country, you must go for a political party. So he set up a political party and changed himself from a military leader to a civilian leader. Hitler did that. Hitler was incarcerated in prison. He wrote his book, Mein Kampf, and then he came out and set up a political party, and won an election in Germany. Now, my brother, MANSA MUSA, and Dr. Eni, we live in a country, and we have seen what coup d'etat has done to Ghana. People's fathers have been killed, brothers have been killed, all in the name of corruption. Today we are standing here talking about corruption. It is not about killing anybody. We don't need any coup d'etat in any way. It is not the job of a military officer to come and take up a coup, to take up the country. After we have woke up in the morning, 5 a.m. to go and kill and elect somebody that, according to your own willpower, you want this man to be our president, and the man will start a government. Now, what we can do is that if anybody thinks that something is bad in Ghana, who will never solve our problem? Last year, February, Professor Kidiga in Ghana used about 2-3 hours making a letter making excuses the country is even due for coup and all this blah, 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 blah. What is this? A coup d'etat in Ghana again? We have come a long way. We have come a long way, baby. Even without coup d'etat, look at how we are suffering. Without any military intervention, look at how we are suffering in Ghana. Look at how we are suffering. We are going to make a coup and go to war for another loan. Coup in Ghana? I'll listen to you. I'll listen to you. Of course. What you must teach about the judicial system. If the judicial system is slow, it's so effective. This is what you talk about. Need a coup d'etat. A coup d'etat for what? A coup d'etat for what? No. I'm listening to you. Go ahead. The worst form of democracy, in my view, is when people in a country think that the resources are not being used effectively to better the lot of many of them. When people think that the resources are not being used effectively, so that people can have access to a national account. In the case of Ghana, it's not like that. It is never like that. And look at what is happening in Burkina Faso. After the people stage a coup, they cannot, the coup protests cannot even protect themselves. They are now going to hire some people from outside, the Wagner people, to come and protect them. Can you imagine this? Coup protests have staged a coup in Burkina Faso. They cannot even protect themselves. They are now going to hire foreigners to come and control them. What is the sense in this? So what it is senseless. So if you ask me that the worst form of coup, worst form of democracy, the worst form of democracy is that when people think that they have elected a president and a government, and then the government are not using the resources of the country to better the lot of other people. You must wait at the end of the 4 years. If you think so, we let another person. As for coup, you must demolish this from our mind. Ghana, coup d'etat in Ghana, again, it's something that we not talk about. If I hear, yes, obviously, what? Yes. Yes, of course, certainly, yes. Is what? It kills what? It doesn't kill anybody. It does not kill anyone. It doesn't kill anyone. It can't kill anyone. It can't kill anyone. It doesn't kill anybody. It doesn't kill anyone. It doesn't kill anyone. It's not anything we should never entertain this. We should never entertain the coup d'etat in Ghana. I will never support anybody. Listen. Okay, go ahead. What does he say?
If people are manipulating, as is happening
down. It is a civilian government. It's democracy. They are using the institution, weaponizing the institution to their advantage. What choices have the people got to change the government? The people have no choice because someone is a civilian that is manipulating the system so much that no changes can come. At this point,
Can I say? Can I say this? Let me see. I don't know. I'm saying the last thing. we don't have this experience in Ghana, you know.
Thank you very much, my good brother, senior brother, MANSA MUSA, for the good work that you are doing. And I encourage you to always engage us in these thought-provoking topics. God bless you. Listening to the one who just left your studios, in terms of conversation, I'm a bit enraged, and I beg to differ. In a case where democratically elected president try to use the system to their advantage, that is enriching themselves, making things easier for their immediate family, whereas the masses who voted for them more or less suffer or live in anguish, then one can expect that some of these happenings that are happening around the West African countries, which is the coup, is a welcoming news. The only thing that I am afraid of, that if it should happen in Ghana, the NDC may not come to power. That is the only thing I'm afraid of. But if not, I will support coup any day, anytime, anywhere. Because we cannot live in a country where we, the electorates, our taxes are used to fund the lavish lifestyle of some people, a few people, some few greedy people. Whereas we, the electorates, who find it very difficult to even make one square meal a day, and you want us to support this kind of democracy. What is the way form of democracy where people are being killed, and we're saying that is better than an authoritarian or a military rule? Yeah. We witnessed, I'm from Ghana, so I'll speak to the happenings in Ghana. We are just from election 2020. 8 people were murdered in cold blood because somebody feels that he must continue to stay in power. Are you not practicing democracy? It is supposed to kill. So where democracy is killing, and you are saying it is better. In any case, when there is a coup, what happens? People die. That's why we say it is not good. So if in democracy people are dying, then why should we continue to practice democracy? I don't buy his idea where he says that they are not dying. Exactly. Exactly.
Yeah, MANSA MUSA. Yeah, thank you so much for that. It's unfortunate I couldn't come in when the gentleman was on. Musa, you see, what is going on in Africa and in West Africa? Part of the problems that Africa and West Africa is facing, like the gentleman who just spoke, is that our elites, our academicians, those people who are in the individual sovereign states, they are part of the problems. Some of the elites, media, and the judiciary, they know very well that when the politicians take power, like the gentleman just said, they change the system just to stay in power. MUSA, election is a process. The gentleman, your spokesperson who just spoke, in Ghana as we speak, MUSA, we know very well that we have a problem with the electoral commissioner. We have a problem with the Ghana electoral system as we speak. But when the gentleman came, he didn't mention much about it. But however, Master Musa, me and you, we know very well that in a state called Ghana, we need to do something concerning our electoral commissioner and what is going on. Nobody is talking. And what is the problem? Then the elite and the media will come and make noise. Musa, it is across the whole entire Africa and West Africa. You see, when you buy a car, Master Musa, you make sure your car, you have something called preventive maintenance. You know why? You do preventive maintenance so that your car don't break down. If you don't do preventive maintenance, the car will break down, Master Musa. Why is it that Africa, West Africa, the democratic institution don't put in place a mechanism so that when some group of people think they are being cheated, they complain, they can intervene and tell the government in power that, look, what you are doing is recipe to disaster, so stop. But the way when people are pushed to the wall, Mister, you see, in psychology, even if somebody is timid and you push that person to the wall and the person thinks there's no way for him to escape, and even no matter how timid that person is, he will muster courage and come back at you because you know his life is at risk. Okay? So, you see, Ghana media, the elites, the academicians, those who understand politics, they are professors who are in the universities. They know psychology in politics and what government is all about. Musa, they are all quiet and mute. From Ghana right all the way to Niger, nobody is talking. But when there's a problem, there's a fire, then we start singing London's burning, look yonder, bring water. You see, this is the problem Africa we are facing. We don't want to speak the truth, Master Musa. Look, people are not going to speak the truth. Ghana, we are in the same suit. The gentleman who came, it's shame that I couldn't come in before he left. Ghana is sitting on center hooks. They should speak and tell them, look, stop what you are doing, electoral commissioner. You are going to cause problems. But we are not talking about Niger. We're talking about Senegal and other places, Musa. Musa, you see, it is time that we have 5 of Kevin Taylors, 4 of Mansa Musa. Then you guys will speak for state called Ghana. As for the other sovereign states, Niger, I can't go there much because I'm a Ghanaian. Musa, I'll stop here for others to also come and speak. Thank you for giving me the opportunity. Thank you so much.
Yeah, I surely want to add something. And like my friend or my brother who just spoke said, in fact, nobody wants a coup to happen, but where the situation is like just few people are amassing wealth, not for even themselves, but for their future generation, living, the masses in abject poverty, then certainly everybody will support, including myself, will support the call for a coup to happen. Then I do not see a situation whereby if I'm living well in a democracy, in a well, let me say, cut out democracy, I'll be calling for a coup. It's because of some of these things where, like my brother said, even those that we look up to, that when things are bad, they will speak up, they keep quiet. and allow the mishappenings to be meted out to the populace. Certainly, everybody wants to be free. So, and then let the military take over. Because if you have the CSOs who are not complaining about the happenings in the country, you have the council of the churches and whatever, the Christian council who are not talking about the happenings in the country. And I don't remember the last time the president even spoke about the killings in Techima. He never spoke about it till late. And we expect us to be happy about it. People will not be happy. Today you can't even, make a 1 square meal a day. Since the price of goods are skyrocketing, everything's on the roof. Today, if you take 200 cities, I tell you, my good brother, it will not even last you a day. 200 cities. It will even last you. So people more or less are giving up on the country. And that is why you see the jubilation in Niger and Mali and other countries, because they've given up on the country. They know that, it is not worth dying for, and that the people are only there to make themselves rich. This reminds me of a parliament, I think, one of the African countries, where a female parliamentarian told the speaker that she cannot be part of the gruesome murder that's being meted out to the masses, where the national cake is being shared to themselves, and that those that voted for them, who are supposed to be beneficiary of the national cake, are rather, living in abject poverty, and so she cannot be part of it, and she vacated her seat. So there are some voice of conscience out there who see the wrong thing and then they talk about it. But there are others who feel that what is going on, it is because once it benefits them, then sure it must go on. And one writer once said that turning and turning in the widening grave, the falcon cannot hear the falcon. When things fall apart, near anarchy lose on the one center cannot be. And exactly that's where we have gotten. We feel that, the center is not holding. People are not, those who are supposed to speak for even those who are poor, they're not speaking for them. They are leaving them to their fate. And everybody is waiting for the day that the coup will happen. And in fact, I'll be the happiest man on earth should it happen. Looking at what is happening now. Yeah, even though it comes with its excesses, but it is what it is. We can't continue to live in a country where monies that are supposed to be used to develop the country are rather sitting and lying idle in somebody's room, doing nothing.
We are discussing all those issues and why, the coups shouldn't happen and everything, because the citizens have choices and everything. I'm reading something here that Johnson Esiedu said that they, I think, consulted the Council of State about the appointment made by Nanado. In particular, one, to the Electoral Commission, one, Mr. Apiahene, Dr. Apiahene. His inclusion.
That guy, I know him personally.
Yes, his inclusion has brought a problem, and that the Council of State should decide. He said the Council of State told him that for them, they don't look at political affiliations. All what they look at is if the person is fit enough and can do the job. You see, and I'm thinking about this. You see, are they going to use the same criteria all the time that anybody who comes to power can select anyone into a very sensitive, public institution, and it is all about that if the person can do the job. But if the person is carrying a baggage, or the person is suspected to be biased or can be biased to one side or the other, the Council of State, for them, they are saying they don't care about that. And these are some of the problems citizens are facing all over these West Africa places, where the powers that be, the elites, they think they are wiser, they are clever, Then when things happen, they say, no, things shouldn't happen. This isn't right, is it?
Yeah, it isn't right, as you rightly put it. Because we live in a country where hypocrisy is the order of the day. 2 legs good, 4 legs bad. We are in this country where a certain electoral commissioner or leader of the commission was removed on the basis of procurement breaches. Have you not seen same? Even the worst form of it. And what has those people said about it? Are you not in this country where people were in the ex-Muhammad administration, where things were bad and were criticized, and today all those things are being done even in multiple folds. And what are those people saying about it? Certainly nothing, because it is about them. And that is where the frustration is. Because what is good for the goose surely must also be good for the gander.
Sure.
You cannot pick and choose on issues on what you want to talk about and what you cannot talk about. So, like you rightly said, where the hypocrisy is at the helm of affairs, the frustration and the people and the anger of the people heightens. And that is why the youth of today are calling on on the military to take over. And yesterday, when we heard the news that the CDS has been changed, honestly, some people were like, what is he afraid of? If he knows that he's doing the right thing and that Ghana is heaven like he always touts, why should he change the CDS? It means that he himself knows that things are not right. What stops you from doing the right thing? You have every opportunity. All the institutions are under your control. Why don't you do the right thing so that the people will more or less have a bit of peace or relief on their daily activities? But you do things in a way that actually benefits a few people. And that is why the coup is always or is rampant nowadays. And I'll not be surprised that in the coming weeks, in about a week or two, we will hear of another coup. I'll not be surprised. Because I feel that it is a network and people have come up to take over and make sure that people are liberated from this so-called democracy that we are practicing. I believe it's a way of more or less limiting the potentials of Africa or the Africans. We give you this, so that you don't even think outside the box to more or less interconnect and trade among yourselves. So that you develop the people. But in democracy, you can't do this, you do this, you do that, and the people are wallowing in abject poverty. So, in the coming days, I expect more coups to happen, and I will not be surprised.
All right. Listen, thank you very much. Let me go for a short break. Those of you, if you want to also say something, you raise your hand and I will let you speak. Come and have your say. Let's go for a short commercial break.
Busiafo sese die ye nam top connect so e mani sika de bagana e free wiase afa na nyina ye ntua ka pre ane aye free top connect amasika mani aye mrekra ye wohia ne se wo be download wo top connect app no e wo Play Store dia ma wo Android phone ana se wo use iPhone so a ko Apple Store na download the top connect aye simple kra top connect wa man be bro aduonum so wo Europe, North America and Asia wo mane wo dofo sika fa top connect so a aye tem na emre na mawa hoto so sese die sika manye di foforo kra any top connect se we hia chechemu bia free top connect e wo +442 081 6155 and a +442 081 761 600 +447 882 950 088 and nasa hwehwe top connect e wa befon tintenfidie nyina so top connect fasika mane wa dofo asumdiem a wontia ka pre top connect yenso ye die
Right, you are listening to MUSA NFM Radio on Facebook and on YouTube. Yeah, we are on Zoom as well. I have to say tonight, I'm not in a full vim at all. I've got a flu. I've got flu. So it's making my nose itchy and everything. It's not comfortable, but let's plod on. Someone, Baba, is it Idris Sadiq said he couldn't connect with the link. That is strange because I've checked the link and it works all right. It connects all right. So, Baba, if you are listening, kindly try again to see if you can reconnect with the link because the link is working. We are talking about the recent spate of the coup d'etats in West Coast of Africa or West Africa region, where especially the French-speaking countries have had, they are fed up with everything that is happening around in their countries, where you see that a country like France, this, yes, I heard something I laugh at. These French-speaking African countries, they have to pay their, what do you call it, their revenues, any monies that they get, they have to save it in a certain bank in France. And when they want part of their money back, they have to actually borrow. They will borrow it at an interest. You see? So people are learning, the French-speaking countries, they are fed up with the status quo, the new colonialism that is happening. So for them, they think the new way, the best way to go is to remove the civilian governments. But you see, these so-called civilian governments that we have, they are not helping themselves as well, because what they do is that in order for them to get into power, they have to align themselves with some powers outside their countries, mainly from the Western, like Britain, France, and US. This is where they get their money, this source of funding. So whenever they are in power, they have to work to the interest of the other powers outside their country, at the detriment or the disadvantage of their own people, you see. So it is a problem. How everyone would wish that today, 2023, we shouldn't be talking about coup d'etats. But like Mr. George Weah, the Liberian president, have said, if incumbents are using state institutions, manipulating it to their advantage, I mean, what choice have the masses got? What choice? Why wouldn't there be a coup? So for those of you always shouting and vomiting and crying and that coup is not good, it's not the answer, the worst form of democracy is better than a coup. That's why I want someone to explain to me what is the worst form of democracy. Tell me, what is the worst form of democracy? If you define worst form, then we can relate it to or compare it with military regime. Because worst forms of democracy also kills, as we've experienced in Ghana. And the killing is not even the what do we call it, the obvious ones you see, like election time, 8 or so people were shot there, no. But the killing, the unseen killings of people, mass, people don't have hospitals to go, they don't have proper places to sleep, people don't have proper food or, no jobs. All these things kills. It kills. So where's democracy? It kills as well. It's only an ostrich who will put his head in the sand, or someone who is not clever at all, who can say that West democracies don't kill. Jesus Christ. Anyway, as they say, you must go and carry again. Because my nose is completely blocked. I have a flu. I don't think I can carry on for the rest of the show. I may have to say good night for tonight. We'll see what will happen tomorrow. If I'm fit and well, I'll be here. If not, then we'll look at either Sunday or next week. So listen, for those of you who took the time to come and listen to MANSA MUSA and to contribute. I thank you very, very much for your time, and let's meet again another time. Have a good night. Have a good night.
Monkey